Hello students. So shall we continue with our discussion on the topic microsporogenesis? So let me write the very term microsporogenesis. In the previous class we had discussed what is microsporogenesis. So what is that we had learnt? We had learnt that microsporogenesis, it is the process of formation of microspore tetrads from the microspore mother cells. And what was the process? It was meiosis, that is the reduction division. So let me write it on the whiteboard. Microsporogenesis, it is the formation of the microspore tetrads from the microspore mother cells through meiosis. This is what we had learned. Now let's look into more details of it. So in the process of microsporogenesis, we find two kinds of cytokinesis that takes place. So when we compare these two types of cytokinesis with respect to that of the monocots and dicots, let us see what is the difference. So here we find two kinds of cytokinesis that occurs. So let me write on one hand the monocots and the other hand the dicots. What is the difference? Let's compare. The microsporogenesis which takes place in the monocots. Now let's start with the microspore mother cell. A microspore mother cell. Now this microspore mother cell, when it divides, that is when it undergoes the very first process of division, that is meiosis 1. So what is the first step that is going to take place is karyokinesis. And what is karyokinesis? You very well know, it is a division of the nucleus. So how the cell would look like? Here, the cell will divide into two, and this karyokinesis will be followed by cytokinesis. And what is cytokinesis? You know, it is a division of the cytoplasm. So here nucleus division has already occurred. From one cell we got the two cells, and now cytokinesis, that is a division of cytoplasm. So there will be the formation of a cell plate. So here a cell plate will be formed, and this cell plate will move further from the center to the periphery, dividing the cell into two halves. So this is cytokinesis. Then what happens? Again, there will be further division of this cell, and what will be the next division? The next division will be meiosis 2. Meiosis 2 will occur. Again, there will be the division of the nucleus, that is karyokinesis. So let me make this 2 nucleus dividing into 4. So karyokinesis has occurred. This will be followed by cytokinesis, that is the division of the cytoplasm. So we saw earlier also a cell plate formation, and then here also a cell plate will be formed, and this cell plate will continue from the center to the periphery, and this is what it will look like. So you have 4 cells over here. That is, what are these? These are called as a microspore tetrads. So I will write over here, these are the microspore tetrad. And microspore tetrad means, what are these microspores? These are actually the pollen grains. This is the most advanced type. This is the advanced type. This is generally followed in many plants. Here you can write 2 cells are formed, so we can write a term over here, it's dyad. Here you have got 4 cells, so I think we can write here tetrad. Now let's see what happens here. That is in the case of the dicots. In the dicots, what we see is how the microsporogenesis occurs and what is the kind of cytokinesis that follows. So here again I am making a microspore mother cell. Now this microspore mother cell, it will divide. So again there is a process, meiosis 1, and this meiosis 1 will happen and karyokinesis will follow. That is the division of the nucleus. So let's see what is being formed. When the division of the nucleus occurs, we see 2 cells being formed. But as in the case of the monocots, we saw that karyokinesis was immediately followed by the cytokinesis. But here we will see only karyokinesis happening. It is not followed by cytokinesis. Now let's move on to the next step. Again what will happen? Meiosis 2 will follow. So this is meiosis 2 happening over here. And when meiosis 2 follows, when meiosis 2 occurs, we see that karyokinesis is followed by the cytokinesis. So first we will make the division of the nucleus. So we can see 4 cells being formed, okay, and followed by cytokinesis, that is the division of the cytoplasm. So let's see how the cytokinesis will occur, like this and this way. Okay, here you can see, children, microspore tetrad is being formed here also, but 3 cells, 1, 2 and 3, you can see it very clearly, but the 4th one, you can see it's not visible to us, but it's there. So this kind of an arrangement is called tetrahedral arrangement. I am writing over here tetrahedral arrangement. These are also microspore tetrads, as that was formed in the case of the monocots. And what is this kind of an arrangement? This type of an arrangement is called the tetrahedral arrangement. Sorry, isobilateral arrangement. It is called as a isobilateral arrangement. I am writing over here. Okay, so we saw a comparison between the monocots and the dicots, and we saw here this is an advanced type, and this kind of an arrangement is an isobilateral arrangement, and that kind of an arrangement is called as a tetrahedral arrangement. Now let's study an example of a plant known as Aristolochia elegans. in this plant, we generally see 5 kinds of tetrads. 5 kinds of tetrads are formed. What are those 5 kinds of tetrads? They are, let me list it out. First, a linear form. Second, a T-shaped form of a tetrad. Third one, already we had discussed in the case of the monocots, that was an isobilateral. Fourth one, the tetrahedral. And the last one is the decussate type. This two you have already learned. Isobilateral in the case of the monocots and tetrahedral in the case of the dicots. Now, how this linear form would look like? The linear form of a microspore tetrad will give an appearance of this type, where you have 4 cells arranged in a linear fashion. Okay. Now, what about this T-shaped? Now, the T shape would look like a T. The tetrads arrange in this manner. Okay. And what about this decussate? The decussate will be of this kind. The cells will be arranged in this fashion. Okay. The other two you know very well. So these are the 5 kinds of tetrad which is generally seen in the case of the dicots. Now let's study about the more details of the pollen grains. Now the study of the pollen grains is known as palynology. So let me write over here, the study of the pollen grains is known as palynology. Now who gave this term? 2 scientists, namely Hyde and Williams. They had introduced this term called palynology. What is the shape of the pollen grains in general? The shape of the pollen grains is spherical. So let me write over here, it is spherical in shape. And what is the size in diameter? Generally the pollen grains in diameter, they measures from 25 to 50 micrometers. This is the size. So 2-3 informations you got about the pollen grains. Study of the pollen grain is known as palynology. Hyde and Williams, they introduced this term. Then the pollen grains, they are spherical in shape and in diameter they will be measuring 25 to 50 micrometers. And this yellow color, it is imparted to the pollen grains by the carotenoids. Color imparted to the pollen grains is by the pigment called as the carotenoids. You are familiar with this term, pigment called carotenoids. They impart a yellow color to the pollen grains. Okay. Now, the pollen wall, we see that the pollen wall is covered by a covering which is called as the sporoderm. It's covered by a covering called the sporoderm. Now this sporoderm, students, it has got two layers. The two layers are, one is the outer layer called as the exine, and the inner layer which is called as the intine. Now let us study the difference between an exine and an intine. So one side I will be writing exine, the other one intine. Exine is hard. I think you can see an image over there about the pollen grain. You can see there the outer layer is the exine and just interior to the exine is the intine. So exine is a hard outer covering and this exine, it is made up of a material which is called as the sporopollenin. So I'll write over here, it is made up of sporopollenin. And the sporopollenin, it is secreted by the innermost layer of the anther wall, that is the tapetum. This is secreted by tapetum. You have already come across the term called the tapetum. Now what about the intine? Intine is thin and it is made up of pectocellulose. It is made up of pectocellulose, that is, the active ingredient is the pectin. So it is the pectin, and what is the speciality of the pectin is that pectin is, it has a high tensile strength. So let me write over here that pectin has a high tensile strength. That means due to this tensile strength, it gives stretchability or flexibility to the pollen tube. So this property offers, so I will write that word, this property offers stretchability and flexibility to the pollen tube. And flexibility. Okay, let's study about a pollen grain in details. Now students, I have made a pollen grain over here, and here you can see this is the exine which you have already learned just now, and this interior portion is the intine. Okay, I had told you that this exine is a hard layer, outer covering, and it is made up of sporopollenin. This I had told you. This exine is made up of sporopollenin. But we see that at this particular point, there is a gap over here. You can see there is no continuity. At this particular place, this sporopollenin is absent. There is no sporopollenin over here. So this particular spot is called as, or this space is called as the germ pore where the sporopollenin is absent. Now, why the sporopollenin? My next question will be like, why the sporopollenin is absent over here? The reason behind it is that this is the space, that is a germ pore, through which we can see what is being emerging, what emerges. You can see that there emerges a pollen tube. That is why at this place the sporopollenin is absent. So this is what? This is the pollen tube that comes out. So is that clear? So here we have the nucleus over here, and this is the pollen tube. You know, this pollen tube, it carries the 2 male gametes, which helps in the process of sexual reproduction. Now, the pollen grain, as we had discussed, has got sporopollenin in the exine, and this sporopollenin, who secretes it? You can write a word that this is secreted by the innermost layer of the anther wall, and that is the tapetum. If you remember, students, that we had made a sporogenous cell, a sporangium, and you know inside there are the sporogenous cells, and here I had made the tapetum. In the previous class you might remember this diagram. This was the tapetum, the sporangium, and you know what is being formed inside. You know the pollen grains are being formed inside this by the process of microsporogenesis. Now this is the cell wall, and here is the another one layer interior to it, and that is the plasma membrane. You can draw along with me. So I'll label this also. This is the plasma membrane. Okay. Now at this point, students, at this point there is a structure which is called as the pro-Ubish bodies. So I'll label over here, there is a structure called as the pro-Ubish bodies. Now what happens is, this pro-Ubish bodies, when it slowly moves towards the interior to the membrane, when it moves and when it reaches here, it starts releasing the substance which is called as this sporopollen. This pro-Ubish bodies then starts releasing sporopollenin. And when it starts releasing the sporopollenin, at that time the pro-Ubish bodies gets converted into Ubish bodies. Sorry, it is called as Ubish bodies then. When they start secreting the sporopollenin, they will be termed as Ubish bodies. So this is how we see that sporopollenin is formed, and which becomes the main component of the exine. Is that clear? Now, we have some other features of these pollen grains. What are they? The pollen grains, they are rich in nutrient. That means they are a good source of energy. The pollen grains, they are a good source of energy, and therefore they can be used as food supplements. So you can write it, they can be used as food supplements. Secondly, these pollen grains, they are given to the racehorses as well as the athletes. Racehorses as well as the athletes. Why? The answer is very simple here, because already you have said that this is a good source of energy. So giving to racehorses as well as athletes means to improve their performance. performance. Okay. So these are the benefits of the pollen grains. Now let's study much more details of the tapetum. What else it secretes apart from the sporopollenin. So I was telling, let's discuss about the tapetum, that what does it secretes. It is secretory in nature, students. First thing, it has been already taught to you all that it secretes sporopollenin, forming the outer cover of the exine. Secondly, it also secretes pollen kit. Now what is this pollen kit? The pollen kit, it is a covering which is seen on the pollen grains. So it is a covering on the pollen grains, and this covering provides a yellow color to the pollen. The yellowish color is imparted to the pollen grains, and this yellowish color, it is mainly due to the pigment which is called as the carotenoids. This carotenoids serves two functions. First is that carotenoids, they help in, like the color. I told you that the color imparted is a yellow color to the pollens. So the color, it attracts the insects and thereby promoting pollination. Secondly, the carotenoids also acts as a shield pigment. They are also acting as a shield pigment. Now what is the meaning of the shield pigment? Shielding means protecting, just like an umbrella. Okay, so these shield pigment, that is the carotenoids, they will be protecting the pollens from the harmful UV rays of the sun. So that is why they are named so. Now the next thing is, the pollen wall also contains some proteins which is also secreted by the tapetum. It is not only the sporopollenin which is secreted by the tapetum. There are some other proteins also which is secreted by the tapetum. Secretes certain proteins, and these proteins, they may cause some allergic reactions also in the case of human beings. So I am writing over here, allergic reactions may also be caused by these proteins which may be secreted by the tapetum on the pollen walls. Now what is the allergic reactions? It may be in the form of some respiratory disorders. So respiratory disorders like you very well know, asthma and bronchitis. So these two diseases may also be caused due to the such type of proteins. They may be given a name as hay fever. We can also call it as a hay fever. Now here you, for just a shortcut, you just remember the term called CAPS. Now what is this CAPS? You remember certain plants called as a chenopodium. There is another one plant called as amaranthus. You have parthenium, and the last one you have the sorghum. Students, you remember in the form of CAPS. These are the plants causing the allergic reactions. The most potent of which is the parthenium, which is also called as the carrot grass. This causes pollen allergy. So here you can, I'll write the heading over here, pollen allergies. So if you remember the CAPS, I think it's very easy to remember these plants. The most potent is the parthenium, which was introduced as a contaminant along with the imported variety of the wheat. Okay. Next we'll study about the pollen viability. And preservation. What is this term called pollen viability, students? Pollen viability means till what time a pollen will remain functional. So it is a time till which a pollen grain remains functional, and this differs in different plants. For example, in the family of Poaceae means, the examples, the rice and the wheat. The rice and wheat family, we see that the pollen grains, their viability period is only 30 minutes. Till 30 minutes only the viability is there. After that, they become non-functional. Whereas on the other hand, 3 more families are there. For example, the Fabaceae, the Rosaceae, and the Solanaceae. In these 3 families, we see that the pollen viability remains for several months. So here you add a word here. For several months the viability remains. Okay. After pollen viability, let's talk about the pollen preservation. This is also called cryopreservation. How the pollen grains can be cryopreserved? First, let us see what is cryopreservation. The pollen grains, students, they can be preserved for a long time. For years they can be preserved. For what purpose? For crop breeding programs. They can be preserved. How they can be preserved? They can be preserved by storing them in liquid nitrogen so that they don't get spoiled. In liquid nitrogen, and what is the temperature? In minus 196 degree Celsius. So in this way the pollen grains can be easily stored, they can be cryopreserved for the main purpose is crop breeding programs. And this type of a storage can be done in pollen banks. They can be done in pollen banks. Now the last thing I would like to tell you is that pollen grains, students, let me make a structure once again. The pollen grains, in majority of the angiosperms, in majority of the flowering plants, the pollen grains, they shed or they get shed at a 2-cell stage. So majority means, let me give in percentage, about 60% of the angiospermic flowers, the pollen grains, they shed at a 2-cell stage. Now what is this 2-cell stage? 2-cell stage means the pollen grains, they will be dividing mitotically. They will divide mitotically and 2 compartments will be formed. That is 2 cells will be formed. This cell, the uppermost cell, will be called as the vegetative cell. So I am writing over here, it is called as a vegetative cell. And you can see the vegetative cell, it has got a uneven nucleus, and here this lower part, this is quite big. You can see the vegetative cell is quite big in size, and the nucleus is also uneven, you can see here. And here the lower portion is the generative cell. This is called as a generative cell, and generative cell also has got a nucleus, oval shaped, and this is, as if you can see that the generative cell is floating in the cytoplasm of the vegetative cell. It gives such an appearance that as if the generative cell is floating in the big dense cytoplasm of the vegetative cell. So just I have told you that 60% in 60% of the angiospermic flowers at this two cell stage, that is the vegetative and generative cell, the pollen grains they get shed off. But in 40%, in the rest 40%, what we see, rest 40% of the angiospermic flowers, we see that the pollen grains they are shed at 3 cell stage. 3 cell stage. And what is that 3 cell stage? Finally, this generative cell, now this is one and this is the second one. Further, this generative cell, they will again divide into 2 male gametes. They will divide into 2 male gametes, and this is the 3rd cell stage. So in rest 40%, the pollen grains, they will be shed at the 3 cell stage, that is vegetative cell, a generative cell, the generative cell which further divided into the 2 male gametes. I think today, children, you have learnt so many of the topics, starting from the microsporogenesis. We learnt many points, how it differed from the monocots and in the case of the dicots, and we saw topics like the characteristic features of the pollen grains. We discussed about the sporopollenins, we discussed about pollen viability, about the preservation and what is cryopreservation. All these topics I hope you have understood. Like you have the first one, give one word for the following. The first is the nutritional layer of anther wall is dash. Second one, the end product of microsporogenesis is dash. Third, the ploidy level of the cell in microspore tetrad is dash. Second one, a typical angiospermic anther is bilobed and tetragonal consisting of dash microsporangia. Third one, the pollen grains are well preserved as fossils because of the presence of dash. Intine is made up of dash. Fifth one, alpha cellulose fibrous thickening is present in oblique on dash. Sixth one, dash weed has become a major cause of pollen allergy in India. Seventh, the innermost wall layer of anther is dash in function. Eighth one, the most resistant organic material known which makes up the outermost layer of pollen wall is dash. The ninth one, pollen viability for rice and wheat plant is dash. And the 10th one, the prominent pollen grain apertures called germ pores are present on dash. So these were the practice questions, students, that you have to practice at home. Students, I hope that you have taken down a snapshot of the practice questions that had been shown to you now. I want that you all practice that very well at home, and hope you have understood the concepts well. Thank you.